I'm Devin Allen, Baltimore-based artist, most known for my documentation after the death of Freddie Gray, where I landed. I became the third amateur photographer ever with the cover of Time magazine. And I'm most known just for documenting my community down in Baltimore, just trying to tell those stories and unearthing things and showing things to the world. And I'm also known for my 2020 Time cover after the death of George Floyd, Tony McDade, and Breonna Taylor. But today is not about me. We're going to be chiming in and talking to the GOAT, So I love origin stories. For me, I started photography in 2013. My grandmother bought me my first camera, and I've just been in love with it ever since. But Guru, you are an engineer. In the musical world, you're just a GOAT. Everybody knows you. But now we know you for your amazing photography. But let's talk about that journey through music. Let's talk about, for people who don't know you, let's just talk about that legacy and that journey through music.
Oh man, my musical journey is a long one. I am 47 years old. I was born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware, so not that far from you when you was in Baltimore. I grew up, hip hop wasn't even a thing yet. When I was there at sort of the foundational stages of what we, call this music. But I've always had an engineer's mind. I was just the kid that I love how systems work, just period. Whether that's a computer, whether that's a bicycle, whether that's a VCR. I used to fix people's VCRs in the hood and get like $20 or something, fix people's bikes, fix just any system I was just really into. So when I got into the music, it was as much about expression through music, but also expression through engineering, through an engineer looks at the equipment as art, so you can look at the design of a Leica camera and see the art just in the design of it, right? So that's sort of what I was into. And that got me into a bunch of spaces because a lot of people were trying to make hip hop music, didn't know how to work the equipment. They didn't know anything about studio. So I was just an information hound. I was never the guy that was ashamed to hang out on the corner with my friends and drink a 40, but I'm reading a book, that was sort of my life. So I just started gathering a bunch of information, DJ'd all throughout high school, had the blessing and the whereabout to not take over 50 basketball scholarships and attend Howard University because that's where I wanted to go. I got there at this super magical time in the early 90s, right before Puff did what he did with Bad Boy. And it wasn't just Puff as one person, it was the community of people that were there. So you're talking about, all of the hitmen from Chucky Thompson to Derek Angeletti to Nasheem to most of the people that made most of the beats for Bad Boy, were there in that environment. And along with a bunch of other just dynamic people who raised me up and brought me into the music industry. But I was just always a hard worker. Left DC in '99 to go work for another Howard student, Derek Angeletti. He did the Mad Rapper voices on Biggie albums, right? He also produced the Benjamins and Hypnotize and all those classic records for Big. Went to go work for him for a year, did that, and then ended up at Baseline Studios through Memphis Bleak, and that's where I met Jay. So from that point on, from the end of '99, early 2000 till now, I've been with Jay, Rockefeller, doing a bunch of work for just everybody, but that's been my main gig. It's just Jay and Rockefeller, but I've pretty much worked with everybody in R&B, hip hop, a little bit of Afrobeat, a little bit of reggae, and some jazz. So that's pretty much been my story. And because it's so many years of just auditory mastery, right? Just trying to master just music and sound and staying up with programs I'm of that generation that when I started, there was tape and there was no computer. So, moving into slowly but surely these generation after generation of let's get into the computer. Okay, we don't need tape anymore. Being fully in the dark, those things are things that help me along just because I love information and I love to learn, I love to read. So as that developed, I developed. And that got me to a point of mastery of audio. So I'm saying all that to say, us being artists at a certain point, you need some other form of stimulus. You know what I mean? It's just like,
exactly.
Like I've been so auditory for so long that the visual medium started to interest me and say, okay, well, what can I do with this camera? And that was sort of my introduction to photography, or the research of photography.
Yeah, definitely. And if you look at just hip hop in general, well, music in general, photography has always been a vital tool in that world anyway. You know, the documentation of the growth of an artist. You know, I think about
I so wish that I was into photography
right
years before I got into it, because there's so many moments that I look back now and be like, man, I could have caught all of these special moments on camera, but I wasn't thinking about it. You know, like it wasn't my thing yet. So I think that gave me even more of an appreciation of the moment. You know, like just looking back at my life and being like, man, if I'd have had my life at this point and this point, I could have just caught, you know, there are certain things that being in the studio, when an artist goes in the studio, they're in a very vulnerable place. They're in a safe, you try to make it a safe place as an engineer, but it's their art, they're vulnerable. So it's just like, when you get them comfortable, that's the same thing the photographer's trying to do in less than 5 minutes when he's on a shoot. You know what I mean? It's like, get this person, you don't know this person, you're meeting them, you're trying to get them comfortable. And it's just like, I have this advantage because I've worked with these artists. So when they walk in the room, they're comfortable with me. We have these sort of rules, you know, in the studio that they're not rules, but just things that will progress you. Like, I don't talk about one artist conversation to another artist that they had in the studio. There's a certain amount of comfort because people are really open. I don't, you know, invite a whole bunch of people to my studio sessions to be like, hey, I'm working with so-and-so today. Why don't you stop by? That's that person's space. So I'm just saying all that to say the level of comfort allows you to get these incredible photos when you're in the studio workspace. And I guess that in and of itself too became my challenge, because I made a point to myself to be like, I don't want to just be the celebrity photographer. That's like way too easy for me. It's not a challenge. I'm in the room with celebrities all the time. Now, it's a mixture of, if I see this moment and it's the framing is just impeccable and like, I have to take the shot. I got to take the shot, but I'm not taking a shot at Jay-Z just to take a shot at Jay-Z. It has to be the right lighting and the right frame and the right, you know, everything for me to say, I'm going to take a shot. I treat even the big artists just like I treat people on the street, where it's just like, it has to be the right shot. It's not just because they're famous. And I know that I could pimp the system if I wanted to, and I'm trying to be a real artist and not do that. Just to say, hey, I have 100 pictures of so-and-so, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I really love that. And that's really interesting, you know, because, you know, accessibility into spaces, but also allowing people to be comfortable. You know, that's what I find my favorite photographers are really good at doing. They're people. And if they're not people, they know how to make people take down that first barrier. So let's talk about that. You know, like you said, you're in these spaces, you're in these rooms, but like you said, you're pushing yourself. You know, people expect that from you because you're in the room. Oh, this is Google, so we expect this. But let's talk about, before we get into that, I want to say, why Leica? Like, was that your first camera? Like, what was your first camera when you?
I've never touched any other brand.
But Leica.
I don't know about shooting with a DSLR. I have no. I put it in my hand one time, this DSLR, and it felt like I was holding a Mack truck. It was just like, why is this so big? So real simple, music is what brought me in. So if you look at, there's probably 2 or 3 really important people in that. So my musical friends, my friends' friends, not associates, but like my friends' friends.
Yeah.
So Evidence from Dilated People. People don't know who Dilated People are. They had a song with Kanye back in the day, really prominent West Coast group, underground group, really good music. Evidence mother was a photographer, professional. So she left him when she passed away. She left all of her cameras to him. He's really into shooting, right? Evidence is a really great photographer. He's one of the main people that got me into it. But the reason for Leica was D-Nice. So I would look at D-Nice as a personal just friend of mine from music. You know, I would look at his page when he started doing these photos, and I was like, why did the quality of your photos look so much better than everyone else's? Like, I was a very slow adapter to social media, right? I was late getting on Instagram. I was late getting on Twitter. I was just like, why do I need to tell people what I ate today? You know what I mean? That's what it looked like to me. So when I got on and I started seeing D Nice's photos, I was just like, your photo, there's something about your photo. And this is me just having no idea. And he's like, you know, I shoot with a Leica. And it was just quick like that, you know, like kind of how you don't want to get into these long photography conversations with people that aren't photographers, because it's like, I got to tell you all this stuff first, right? But he just did it like that. And that's all you need to do with me. All you got to do is just show me the door. So
you want to do the research.
I'm going to do the research. So I started digging in deep into Leica and being like, okay. And I think at the time, what Leica was doing from a marketing standpoint was perfect for me. So it's like, I said, okay, I want to get into this Leica world. So then I go buy the T2. You know what I mean? It's like you get the gateway drug. It's like, okay, I'm going to go buy it. Then it's just like, oh, these people are shooting with the M. What's that? So it's like, well, I have a kid that's in school. I don't know if I can afford to go just all out right now. And it's bad. The worst thing is to like have the money to do it, but to have the restraint to be like, I'm going to get every lens and I'm going to get everything. It's like, no, you're not going to learn like that. So I went out and I bought a used M. I bought an M8. And then I bumped up to an M9, right? And then I went and got an M6 because I had done the research and I was like, all right, well, I don't want to get an M4 because I want the M6 that has the light in it, right? So I was just like, I want my light meter like in the camera with me. But it was really the research of all the Leica photographers, and you just fall into this deep thing. And it's like you do the basics, right? Like people are gonna tip you to like Bresson and Robert Capa and Helmut Newton, and all of these people are gonna come up first in the search, right? And then it's just like, okay, well, let me start to figure out what I'm into and what I like. So then that's what got me into like Sebastião Salgado, who's like my favorite photographer of all time, right? Of all time. Just what you were talking about in terms of making people comfortable. I see the empathy in every photo that he takes. And just that devotion of, I'm going to go somewhere for 6 years and live there to be able to, to shoot this. And just that thing is a huge thing for me. Then I started to go, okay, well, there had to be some Black people that shot with a Leica. Who are these people? So I start finding out all the Martin Luther King, photos are shot with a Leica. And I start seeing the Che Guevara photos and they're shot with a Leica. And so it's like all this Leica information starts coming in. Then you start really studying and being like, okay, well, what are, you start learning your 3 primary things. And, you just start going through the whole path but I basically went to photography school on YouTube. And going to a couple like B&H talks and like sitting there, but that's basically how I taught myself how to shoot. I kind of made up my mind as to what I wanted to do, and what is so street is really what attracted me. And I watched a couple of the homies like do photo shoots, and they had models and they set up lights and all of this. And I was like, this is cool, but that's not really my bag. That's not what I want to do. I want to go out and capture street. I like capturing real life as it happens, the way it looks. This is reality. This is what's actually going on. I do bad sometimes with couture or fantasy because it just depends on what that person's fantasy is. That may not be my fantasy. So what you consider sexy may not be my sexy. What you consider taboo may not be my taboo. I like street. I like, this is what the world is at the given time. It's also a huge challenge for me. I like challenges. So as I'm 6'5" Black guy walking down the street with a camera, it's like, how do you be that inconspicuous photographer that's not interrupting the scene and not be, so I started developing tricks of how to shoot from the hip. And that was a huge thing for me, or pre-focusing. So then pre-focusing becomes this huge thing that you have to study and memorize and practice. And I would go outside and not even with a moving image, just a rock or something that's on my hip level, try to click or like figure it out that like the tilt, if I'm shooting from the hip, this and this are 2 different things, like just the angle or just those sort of things were things you learn by going out and just practicing. So that's what really got me into it. And then being blessed to learn all of this as you're in New York City. So you never run out of things to shoot. Every day you can stand on the same corner in New York and every day is different.
Yep, definitely. When my Leica journey started, I remember when I started photography in like 2013. So when I hopped on Instagram, when Instagram was coming out, that's why one of the reasons why I started taking pictures, because I was doing poetry and I needed to take pictures. And we would use this little Nikon Coolpix camera. And then, you know, I did a DSLR, and then I went mirrorless because, like me, I'm in the hood. So like I'm shooting my homeboys, rolling dice, my homeboys trapping on the corner, but then I'm shooting my friend. I'm in the trenches. So it's like, I'm in the hood. So it's like walking around with a DSLR with a 70 to 200, you know, that stuff intimidates people.
Yes.
So I found myself going smaller and smaller and smaller. But when I first seen the Leica, looking at just like old pictures of like Robert Houston, I seen like Gordon with one, you know, and then I'm looking, and then I start seeing, you know, I came up on D Nice and the Photo Dre's and a lot of those guys, you know, and then I actually couldn't afford one, so I went and got me a deluxe, like a little point and shoot one, you know, just to have, you know, and I fell in love with it. It was just so quiet, and this guy that I met in Baltimore, he's from the same neighborhood as Freddie Gray, and he had his camera and stuff stolen, you know, and I knew in my mindset, this is 2016. I just had my time cover. I just did a show in Italy. I got a book coming out in 2017. I'm gonna, you know, be able to get another camera.
Right.
He might not have that opportunity to go out and buy another camera. So I walked up on him in his hood. It's like, here, take this deluxe. You know, he fell in love with it. But then the following year, I became a Gordon Parks fellow, and Swiss Beats pulled me to the side and told me, like, stay at the gala, you partying with me tonight. Right. And then I never forget, his uncle came up to me and was like, here, nephew, this yours. And I got my Leica M8 with the 21 millimeter.
So let me tell you how intertwined we are. I've known Swiss since he was 17 years old, right? My friends that I went to Howard with, one of them grew up in St. Mary's in the South Bronx, same project that Swiss is from. So I bought, my crew and we bought Swiss's 2 first beats that he ever made. And he's just a really good guy. He does stuff like that. He's really for the artists. He really was pushing this thing before NFTs, before the actual idea of NFTs. He was pushing this idea that the artist should get paid every time the photograph is sold. Yeah. So if you sell for 500 on this first one, and then you blow up and it sells for 500,000, you don't get any cut of it. Residuals. Exactly. Yeah. He's been selling that idea for a long, and it's interesting that technology kind of caught up to him, and now it's accepted in the NFT space. But Swiss has been pushing that idea for not only just photographers, painters, everyone, for you to get residuals from your art, because we coming into it from a musical standpoint, where we're like, nah, I made this one piece of art, and every time it sells, I get paid. Every time you play the song, I get paid. So it should be the same for, you know, for visual
artists. Yeah, definitely. Yes. You know, like we got some good questions coming in, so I'm gonna sprinkle in some of these good questions. Absolutely. You know, like this, the one question is really, really, really interesting, you know, and we talked about it briefly about, you know, making people feel comfortable. Yes. You know, and I said earlier, it's about taking down that first level of that barrier. You know, for me, you know, shooting in a city, you know, majority of my time is in Baltimore. I spend a lot of time just documenting everyday life in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. I'm born and raised here. I've been here all my life. So I do have, you know, slightly like a leverage, you know, because I have respect in the community. Yes. But at the same time, I feel as though when I'm a photographer, I'm taking a step back. I'm not a part of the situation. I'm documenting the situation. So I have to remove myself to capture these moments. So I still have a level of respect, you know. And I worked on a story, you know, with a good friend of mine who became a good friend of mine for BuzzFeed, you know, and you know, he was recovering from heroin, and you know, they wanted me to just go shoot him, you know, and it was like no, you know, if I really want to, you know, make him feel comfortable with me. So I actually spent 6 months with him. You know, I stayed the night over his house. I met his family, you know, and we became friends. I would pick him up, give him money, you know, and in turn, he allowed me into his space, and we became really good friends. His name was Gary, you know, and I got to document him, his brother, and it just was a beautiful thing. So I find that sometimes the best, you know, Gordon was good at that. You know, Roy De Carrera was really good at that. Robert Houston was really good at that. Anthony Barboza, Gimel Shabazz, you know, these guys were really good at making people feel comfortable, proud, and seen. So it's a lot of different techniques. What are some of your techniques, you know, even for artists that you may know You know, for years, you still have to make them feel comfortable sometimes.
Right, but there's a couple ways to look at it, and there's different scenarios, right? But there's a couple overall themes, and this is good for people that are not from certain neighborhoods. And when I say certain neighborhoods, I don't just mean, I'm be specific, not just a white person walking to a black neighborhood like ours, right? I'm not even talking about that, because I tour all over the world, and I'm in a whole bunch of different environments and spaces that are not English-speaking spaces, that are not, you know, if I go somewhere, I want to film what real life is like in that country, in that city, and not the touristy things, right? That's the thing that I try to do. So a lot of times I may be in a situation where the people I'm filming don't even speak English, and I don't speak their language. That's like a super hard barrier to get over. But I think, one, the way you dress, body language, and being able to be empathetic. That is, when I said that earlier about Sebastian Salgado, that's what draws me to him, because I see people, they'll like be in New York and just be shooting homeless people. And it's just like the homeless person, like, yo, you making a, it's sort of how I felt when I saw photographers come into my, and predominantly in Newark, right? In Newark, New Jersey, because that's where I raised my kids. My mother's from there. You know, instead of me living in 99 when I went to New York, I moved to Newark because my family was there. Mm-hmm. And I would see photographers come into our neighborhood, and it felt like you just coming in, taking some pictures, and it felt like a zoo, like, oh, let's look at the monkeys, you know, and then leave. So then it's like, nah, there's a difference when you come in and you have empathy and you're really trying to showcase, it's almost like trying to showcase a homeless person in a royal position, or to at least get you to feel something from the photo. And I think subjects can feel that. They can know it's not just a quick thing. There are different techniques. I applaud. It's a long story, but I'll make it short. Evidence, I told you, is one of my good friends. Me and Ev, I go to his house, you know, whenever I'm in LA, I would stop by, and we would basically do the same thing. We make beats. It gets to be around 4:30, 5 o'clock. Okay, it's magic hour. The sun's moving over here. Let's go out and shoot. So one day he's like, yo, you mind if my friend comes along? And I'm like, I don't care, like, whatever. So the friend that just pulls up happens to be Stephen Van Esco. You know what I'm saying? Used to go by Van Styles. And I'm like, Van Styles is your friend? Like, okay. So now I'm on this photo walk, you know, through Venice, and I'm watching Van, and I didn't take a whole bunch of photos. I'm just watching how Van worked. And Van has no fear, like none, no fear. He just walks up, takes the photo. Even if I've seen people yell at him like, yo, what you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, you know, but he got the shot. You know, it's just, and he's walking off. That can't be my style isn't like that. Like, I sort of engage a little bit and try to get the person comfortable. And I think the biggest thing for me with the travel, it's like walking through China, as a 6'5" black man, you know, I'm like I'm going to be seen, and I have to figure out how to take these photos. If I'm in, you know, one of the worst hoods in, I don't know, in any, you know, country, I have to make sure that I'm at least with somebody, or that I know what the rules are. Like, I was walking down the street in, I think it was Brazil, and the guy that was taking me around, good friend of mine, and we got to this one street, he's like, yo, put the camera down. And he's like, because they hustle on that block. So, you know, like any type of camera that's gonna come out on that block, you gotta already have the permission of the guy that run the block. When I was in Trinidad, we went to, you know, one of the spots in Trinidad that's like one of the worst spots. The favelas are in the hill in Trinidad. I literally had to get my dude Buck, thank God I had him, walked all the way up, got the guy, not police, the guy that really runs the favela, to come down and go, oh, no, that's cool, he's okay. But if I had just walked in, and it would have been chaos.
Yeah, so, it's the same thing in Baltimore. People, like, you know, people parachute into Baltimore, and it's like, I've had photographers come here and get their cameras took. And then Devin, somebody took my camera, and I was like, why would, and then I'm like, I don't even go down there. Why are you down there? You know, like, people, you know, because of the uprising, people just like, oh, I'm gonna go down Pennsylvania Avenue. You know, that's where the uprising took place. Oh, I'm gonna go down Gilmore Homes, where Freddie Gray was from. It's like, get your camera took. It's just like, you have to be very respectful, you know, and that's taking down that bird. Like you say, it's all about respect and then knowing, you know, for me, like when I would go to Oakland, I would hit my Oakland homies. Like, yo, I'm in Oakland. Let me get the lay of the land before I even start taking pictures. So a lot of times for me, I like to go in, get to know the person, the energy, you know, and if somebody brought up, you know, a question about the importance of not taking pictures, I always say, I always judge photographers about the pictures that they don't take. And that's like one of my mantras, because sometimes I will put the camera down and just live in the moment.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. That's one of the styles I noticed from D Nice too, as well. I've watched certain photographers who just, you know, flash click and just rapid and just 1 out of 20 of those, you know what I mean, is good.
Yep. And that's one thing.
Yeah.
That's one thing I love, you know, that's why I shoot with my favorite camera is my M10 monochrome. I probably shoot, this is my baby. But that's what I love about Leica. When I finally got my first M, I take time with every shot. You know, it's the beauty of the film, you know, marrying that digital growth. So it's just like I get to take time with the image, even if I'm just shooting a friend. You know, I'm taking time with it. Every shot.
Also the setup is there too. It's going to make you set up. When I say set up, meaning like if I'm in New York and I see this background frame that's incredible, and I'm like, man, if somebody was just standing right there, this would be the perfect shot. Mm-hmm. And I swear to you, the photography gods will bless you every single time. Yeah. Like there's a spot in New York that every month they kind of like change the mural that's there, right? It's almost by the Leica store in New York. So one time it was the green baby Hulk, and the green baby Hulk had a bald head. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I gotta wait for the right person to walk through here. Then a couple people walked, then a guy with a bald head walked through and it like lined up. And I was like, that's what the photography guys were making me wait for. Yeah. Like it's you always, somehow I always get that thing. But I also train myself to be able to see where the photo is kind of fast because of the fact of my lifestyle. Like if I go to Spain, I'm not going to Spain as a photographer. I'm going to Spain as a musician who just got off a gig of DJing an after party the night before, and that was over at 4 o'clock. Then I got on the bus. We drove 8 hours to another place. I got 2 hours before rehearsal for the Jay-Z show. So those 2 hours is me bombing the streets, no matter where I'm at. It's not scheduled. It's not. I got 2 hours to go out here and just to make it. And it's bombing. It's the way. I don't know if people are familiar with that word of what it means as ex-graffiti writers. Like I'm an ex-graffiti writer, but bombing is just, you know, being king of the city, and it's going up and making sure your tag is everywhere. It's not
don't let nobody write toy on top of it though.
Yeah, it's not going up. It's basically you claiming the city. And it's a difference between what we consider bombing and regular painting is somebody taking a canvas and they looking at something and they painting. They're a nice, comfortable environment. You know, the subject matter might be sitting on a stool or whatever. You could tell them what to do. You could change the lighting. You have total control of this situation. When you on the street bombing as a graffiti artist, you got to rack paint. Number one, you got to go. This is when we was kids, and you know, I'm just telling you how hard this was. You got to steal the paint. You got to go figure out how to get in the line. So sometimes you was pulling up grates, you was walking down in the subway, you got to figure out where the trains are. Now I'm standing in something that's this big. There's famous pictures of Dondi where he's like got both feet and he's doing a piece. Then you got to worry about other crews that come into the train yard to rob your paint. This was all that was involved in bombing and street. That's why for me, street photography is that I can't control the situation. You gotta just catch it. Yeah.
If you miss that moment, it's no longer there. You know, it's like somebody got a really good question. They want to know about a time that you wish you were a photographer to take the shot. And they want to know if we could describe it in words. For me, it's just so many times. You know, like growing up in Baltimore, I've lost so many friends just to gun violence. So it's a lot of those moments, like being in a club. You know, a lot of my friends were like young drug dealers with a lot of money. So like just seeing them shining in the club, like the joy and admiration, because a lot of times Baltimore get a really bad rap for the violence and everything. But a lot of times I try to show, you know, the camaraderie in the community. That's why like now when I go to the club, you know, like one of my friends just passed away and I ain't have my camera on me. He was like, don't talk to me, you ain't got your camera on you. You know, where your camera at? You know, and it was like moments where these people pass away and a lot of my images end up on obituaries. But there's a lot of times for me, I just wish it was this moment where my homeboy might have been popping a bottle that I had this image, or I see my people shining. That's why I love the compactness of my Leica, because I just take it anywhere. When I walk through the club, they be like, oh, you got your camera. If I go, well, oh, you know, that's Devin Allen. You know, in my city, good. You know, and I just come through the camera, everybody know. You know, but for you, I know you have so many memories, but just give us one story. You wish you had a camera. Was not there.
There are so many, and I'll give you one story, but then I'll give you a background. There's so, especially because of 2020, there's so many artists that I have worked with that were my friends and I never got to shoot and they passed away, especially in 2020. Or I just think back and be like, man, like I could have caught so many crazy shots of ODB. I could have caught so many crazy shots of Fife. I could have caught so many crazy shots of even Chucky Thompson, who's my direct OG that just passed. You know, like me and him in the studio forever. But I think the biggest example to answer your question is one time we were doing Global Citizens in India, right, with Jay. And I make it a big point to not take my camera on stage with me because to a certain degree, it's like, I'm like, okay, I'm in show mode. And it's tacky for me to like pull out my camera in the middle of a show. I don't like when the artists themselves are like on stage doing this. It's like, nah, come on, that's just ridiculous. And for the fact that we have, which I'm so proud of, I've watched Ravi B, this girl named Raven.
Oh yeah, she's fire.
She's incredible.
She's fire. I've watched her for a long time.
Saying to me, Goo, why am I not in the pit? And I said to her, I said, just wait, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And it's weird because we show this tweet back and forth to each other and I save it for that specific reason of when she said, when am I going to be in the pit? And I'm just like, yo, just chill. Like, so I look at that as her job. I'm very proud of her of capturing our show and the way she does it. But in the middle of that show, Jay asked, you know, the normal rapper thing. He's like, hey, everybody put the phone up, put a lighter up. And he, on the microphone, looks back at me and he's like, Goo, this is incredible. You got to take a photo of this. And I'm like, oh, I didn't bring... So I'm like sitting like this with my iPhone, trying to do the best I can with my iPhone. I got a good shot. But it was like, man, if I had my camera up here, I could be murdering right now. But it's just, that's one of the biggest moments because after a certain amount of time, Jay started to see, oh, Goo taking this photography thing serious. Like he's not just, you know, at first it's like, oh, let me just take a picture. Then it becomes, oh no, he's actually all right at this. And then it becomes a thing where now a couple of times he's like, Goo, take this picture. Where your camera at? Same thing they say to you. People start to expect it. He's like, yo, you ain't got your camera? I'm like, bro, I'm thinking about music. And it's just like, it just lets you know as a photographer, you got to have your camera on you all the time. It's just like an arm. It's just like you always have to have.
It's an attachment. Yeah, definitely. You know, someone wants to know like about books, you know, so photography books are essential. You know, that's what got me to the point where I'm at now. Yeah. How did I develop my style? I would sit, you know, Gordon Parks, when I Google famous Black photographers, he was the first to pop up. And it's funny because right now my laptop is stacked on Gordon Parks books.
It's funny that you're saying that because right now my laptop is stacked on my Sebastian Salgado Genius and Gold. Like literally. So, those are the biggest books that I
yeah, you know, those retrospectives, you know, that long generation of work, you know, I released my first book, which I wasn't ready for. And, you know, it was a headache because I didn't know anything about books, you know, about the printing process, going through so many different proofs, you know, because a lot of times as photographers, we don't, like definitely in this digital age, a lot of photographers don't understand that your work on Instagram and Twitter is not going to look the same once you print it, depending on the process, the paper that you use and everything, you know. So I went through my first proofs of my book was like 700 unusable because just I couldn't let them come out because they wasn't to my standard, how I like my blacks. And my style, my black and white style is derived from film and just studying old school photographers. So I took those books and I just gave them to all the youth from Baltimore for free and gave them all the but, you know, and I'm working on my second book, but Google, like, have you ever thought about just a photography book? With someone
I've thought about it a million times. So here's the thing with me. And this is kind of a good double-edged sword. Like I told you, I came into it sort of with a maturity of already selling art. And this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what type of art you sell. All of these rules or just situations apply to selling art. So I love music so much that I'm willing to go through the nonsense that it takes to sell music, right? And I have for years. There's a huge amount of nonsense that comes in, things that are irritating, things that, you know, we call it playing the game. You just got to play the game. And when I got into photography, I was like, you know what? I want to be so pure in photography that I don't want to play the game. And it's taken me a long time to get to a point of saying, of entering the business of photography, of like doing a book or actually selling prints or selling my work, because I don't sell any of my work. It's literally for the love thing. Like, and when somebody said to me, I said a while ago, I was defining these words. I was like, yeah, I'm an amateur photographer. And people were like, no, you're not, you're good. And I'm like, no. What I mean, it doesn't mean I don't have the love. It means that I love it so much that I don't sell it. I'm not in the business of photography. It's for my love. So then at some point I am going to do that. I don't want to end up being a Vivian Mayer, how do you pronounce it, where like I'm gone and then everybody discovers all these reels.
And they just selling it.
Yeah. But I also revel in this thing of on my time when I get ready. So yes, eventually I'm going to do a book. And, you know, I have ideas of how I'm going to do several books, but I haven't as of yet. And I need to go through this process like you did of decide. I have plenty of people that hit me all the time. I need a print of that. I need a print of that. Okay, I'll print it for you. You know what I'm saying? I just don't, I've never sold it. And that's the thing, that's the education that I have to go through of, you know, I'm not going to allow you to jerk me, but I'm going to learn all the rules first. And then I'm going to put out the book. And I'm big on discovering this balance in between independence and being with a company, you know, like sort of thing. So I don't fight either one. I just need to know what the pros and cons of each are and weigh those and put them out. So I think that's the best answer for me. But I'm a proud amateur, bro. I do this because I love photography. I love learning. I love this thing of light and writing with light. I love mastering. Like if you were to get into music, it's like I could teach you about an EQ, a compressor, a microphone, a speaker in one day. That's literally just how to move the chess pieces. Now you have to learn strategy. So it's like, okay, just with these three things, you know what I'm saying? With these three parameters, right? Where I'm just like, what kind of film do you have in here? What is your focal length? What is your speed? You know what I'm saying? With these three parameters, there's a whole world of things you can do. And I think that's what I'm drawn to more than the business of photography.
Yeah, you know, the business is really interesting. That segues into my next question that somebody had, just about, turning down opportunities if they basically don't align with your vision or your moral compass. For me, that's something that for me, a lot of photographers have been in the game. So for me, I started on the front lines, so like literally, like I got my camera in 2013, Mike Brown died. I was at protest, literally, there, in Baltimore, because we were standing in solidarity. Following year, I ran into Freddie Gray.
Right.
In that moment, I had to understand it was different because similar like you were saying, photography is my passion, is my love. Photography saved my life. If it wasn't for photography and art, I would probably still be in the streets. So I had to draw a fine line of how I'm going to make my money with my art form and what I stand for morally.
But let me say this too, and this is to help everybody that's coming up, and I'm relaying it again to art. As an engineer, when you first start in music, you may be doing some sessions that you don't feel like doing, but they pay. It may not be the most interesting thing to do the sound for a Colgate commercial, but guess what? It pays. You know what I'm saying? It's not the funkiest new song, but it pays. So it's just like, you have to love the thing so much that you're willing to work a job so that you can work on your career. That's the best way to put it. So if you're getting, you're like, oh, I want to be this worldwide. I want to go do this thing that Devin does and shoot this. But it's like, no, I need you to film these sunglasses for this sunglass commercial. It may be boring to you, but it's a check. So, and it's in your field. You're not washing dishes. You're not, like, go do those things. Again, if you are into a situation that morally you feel as though it's not right, you walk in and there's some wild stuff going on, you have every right to walk away from that money, walk completely away from that money. So I used to tell all of my students, like, vibe over money. The money is going to come, but if the vibe ain't right, but you got to be willing to humble yourself sometime and just be like, look, this ain't the specialty thing. This is an advertisement gig and I'm just getting the money. And that person is going to put me in another advertising gig because then I'm going to treat it right. And I'm going to, do everything on time and turn in what they need. And when they call for edits, I'm not going to be grumpy and I'm just going to do them. And all the just things that you got to do that I put on my photographers. Like if someone's shooting an album cover, I know how many times I've gone to the photographer like, well, I know we said this, the artist wants this. Can we all of those things. So you're going to have to take some of the small jobs to get you to the point where you are a professional, to where you live. You're not a professional until this is your main income.
Exactly. And that's, I was lucky enough, being in Baltimore, the Under Armour facility is in Baltimore. So when they reached out to me, they bought my passport. They took me to Asia with Steph Curry,
Yes, sir.
Multiple years. And I went to them and I said, look, and then this is going to segue into another question, and I understand longevity. When I look at people like Gimel Shabazz, and it's like, Gordon had a long longevity, and then the artists, a lot of times, definitely in the social media age, I remember Andy Warhol said, everybody will be famous for 15 minutes in the future, and it's that thing. So it was like, I always thought about longevity. I want to be here, I'm not going to be a runner. I'm not going to sprint. I'm not going to speed to the finish line. I'm going to slow walk it. So
that's the thing about finding your voice. That's a very good point that you're making, right? So there's steps, because when we come into something creatively, obviously something drew us and we're like, we like that. So then you sort of imitate that thing to see if you can get your chops up of learning. But then the hard part is finding your own voice. And especially like nowadays, because you're exposed to so much stuff. So like musically, there's guys that come in, they have a great year, they make a whole bunch of beats, and then somebody else come in because they didn't carve out their own lane. Or they don't have a sound that's them. It's the same thing with images. It's just like, okay, what I see a lot is, and it's double. What I see a lot is, one, people who research but end up regurgitating old information because they want it to look old. There's a very famous, I don't know how famous it is, but in my research, right, I'm on YouTube and I'm watching a Magnum meeting. And one of the Magnum guys is just like, yo, everybody's bringing us. He's like, yo, if I see another insane asylum project, like, I'm gonna go crazy. Like, they're bringing us work that we did 30 years ago, thinking that this is going to impress us to get in here. It's like, where's the new, fresh idea? What's going on right now outside? Because that's what we was capturing, what was going on right now. So it's like, you have to be careful of not imitating just directly the things that you worship, because then you'll never make your own style. And you can't let older people tell you what your thing is going to be. You're the young new thing. Life is new. It's 20. Nothing is different. I mean, nothing is the same after 2020. What does 2021 look like to you? Like, that's the thing. What does the world look like to you? So that 30 years from now, people are looking back and being like, that's what it looked like. Like, I think people miss that part of it in trying to find their own voice. So finding who you are is a very difficult thing to do, because there's so much that you're influenced by.
It takes time, and then, I have a very short-lived career, but I've always looked inward, and that's why I'm so focused on community, and we touched on that. You talk about, people like regurgitating and things like that. I always find you have to do your research. You understand the past, you know where you're going, you know how to get to the future.
Absolutely. Don't get that misconstrued. I didn't want people to think,
I was agreeing with you.
I'm saying that that's the foundation. That's just the knowledge. And for you to get to the wisdom, to get to the understanding, right? Like, so the knowledge is you soaking up. So, and that's another point. You have to soak it up so that you don't think you're creating. Too many times I see young people be like, oh, I made this new thing. And I'm like, that was 40 years ago somebody did that, right? But you've never seen it. So to you, you think it's new. So it's just like, okay, you need to be exposed to what came before you so you can know where the lines are for you to even go outside of the lines, to be like, okay, this is new and refreshing. Like, is it so new and refreshing if you just repeat what Helmut Newton did and you're like, oh, I'm going to show the woman's body in a beautiful way naked? It's like, that's not really taboo to kids that have porn. You know what I'm saying? I'm just keeping it funky. Like that's not really shocking to this world the way it was shocking when he did it, or to the fashion world when he did it, and making that statement. So there has to be a new statement that you make. It can't just be that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. This is we got 10. We got a couple more.
We haven't even looked at a picture yet.
No, they flipping the entire time. They looking good. Like, this is Leica. So we talked a little bit about equipment. And I love learning what photographers shoot with, because it's like, for me, when people find out I shoot Leica, I shoot so many different things. I can be on tour in Asia with Steph. I could just be on the block chilling with the homies. I was shooting Dave East in Harlem with some homies not too long ago. I use my camera I shoot so many different projects. Like, sometimes I might pick up the SL2. My everyday camera is always my M. M is always with me. So like, what are you shooting with? You
It's
know,
never, this thing never leaves my side. My M10 is just, it's always right there, right?
Yeah.
It's just the love of my life.
You got the 50 on there or the 35?
Oh no, right now this is the 28 on here.
28.
Because I needed something wider, but here's my 50. And for me, it's just like, again, I went through all the steps. So at first I bought the cheapest 50 I could find, right? Just to be like, I have a Leica lens, you know what I mean? And I'm not gonna lie, I started off with other company lenses just to be like, I can't afford it. So then I got to this point, and it really makes a difference with this 50 spherical. Like this, oh my God, it makes a huge difference. So I got my 50, I got my 90, of course. Very rarely, like if I'm like at the beach or something and I want to get the super wide, you know, then I'll go to this 21. But for me, mainly on street is 35 and 28, just because if I'm up close, the 28 gives me a wider thing. And a lot of times, say if I'm in the subway and I'm like, I never do this in the subway, right? And I'm most of the time I'm like shooting from the hip. The 28 gives me a way better, just you know, a bigger palette to play with. And I've gotten used to it. The 50 for me is perfect for walking around outside, just because of the fact that it's like, I don't have to get super close to you, but I can be, you know, like close enough that I'm capturing the essence of what the person is. So the 50 for me when I'm walking around, and it's closest to, you know, what I'm seeing. So that's really my babies. I don't mind, you know, rolling around with this thing if I just got it in my, you know, in my bag. Like I said, my film camera is an M6. I just love this M6, my 35. This 35 is a really older 35, but it has this magic to it that I don't get with any other lens. It's one of the.
I actually was looking for one of those because it's so common.
It's the Canadian one for people to see. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's just my big. And let's not sleep. This Q2, when you take this out, it's there, man. It's just like every day it's there. Like I love it. So those are my main things. And then of course, you know, you get into photography. You have like I don't know if I have everything here, but like you get into boutique stuff. This is my baby that is almost, I think she's like 90 years old right now. Still in tip top.
Is that the M2?
No. This is the 3. This is
3. Okay.
Yeah. But I went to the Leica store in LA and had them look up the serial number so I could know exactly the age of it and you know where it came from. So you know, you get into toys. I don't always pull that out, but it's fun sometimes just to have, you know, all these toys. And I do have here in LA, I do have my Rolleiflex here. You know, that's the only other thing that I've ever just gotten into. But I that's like a pet project for me. I'll buy some medium format and just because I wanted to get into it, you know, like sort of thing. But what I shoot with is all my Leicas and my M10 every day.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't see myself shooting with anything else. You know, I
just don't understand photography outside of shooting.
Yeah, you know, it's just the patient with it. You know, we got another question. You know, like we all have favorite images that we've captured. You know, like what was one of your favorite images? You know, like can you speak on it? Like you knew, like you captured this image. You was like, yo, you know, you see it, you just like.
Well, the one that's up right now is one of my favorites. It was just again a bombing day in China, right? I was in Hong Kong, but there's also a Hong Kong picture in there where it's a picture of a store, but it was really me trying to be on my like self-portrait. I'm gonna hide myself and see. It's like, can you find me in this photo, sort of thing. And it just when I clicked the shutter, it ended up being my all-time favorite photo because what I was trying to do was like place myself in the mirror of the store so that you could see me, but where everybody ends up being is like this reflection of there's a sculpture and then there's a woman that's like looking just like the sculpture and there's a guy on another floor. There's like so much information in this one photo and it was purposely, it was very much a definitive purpose. It wasn't by accident. It was me trying to do the specific thing and it came out exactly the way that I wanted it to come out. So it was just a great day in Hong Kong where we had an off day and I got to just roll around. The one that's up now is just a really, that one. Well, sorry, I know he's flipping through it. The one that's up now where the guy was laying down was just me coming out of teaching. We went to a music school, and I taught a class all night. And when I walked out, this playground was right across, like not even across the street. It was in between the buildings, and this guy's just sitting there, just passed out. I don't know if he worked there. I don't know. I don't know. But it's like perfect photo. You know, I had to pull out the camera real quick. Boom. But the one that we flipped from was the one I was talking about of the store. If we could flip back to that one is just my favorite of all time. And it looks like, if you look at the bottom right square, you'll see a mirror, and I'm in that mirror. But then if you look at the rest of it, like look at the lady all the way to the left, like there's a sculpture that matches her. If you look up top all the way to the left, that guy, he's matched in the guy that's walking in between the other sculptures. It's just like, then all of those lines that are in this photo is like lines onto, that's my thing. To me, photography is purely defined as light and lines. Like, you know, and I also have this thing where I'm like, the subject matter doesn't matter. Like, I don't care about what your subject, I care about the photo. Like, I care about the photo. Did the photo give me this emotion? Did the photo, now, if the photo's good, now I care about what's going on, the subject matter of the photo, right? And that's my biggest point of what distinguishes, like, we could all just go outside when there's a protest going on and shoot the protest. As I'm sure a lot of photographers that are young got their first taste of that, you know, very recently with all the protests that went on.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you shoot the protest? It's not just that it's some you know, photos are not going to draw you in. Others are going to really draw you in, and years from now, you're going to really feel what those protests felt like, and that will draw other people in.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I found 2020 was like a groundbreaking year, you know, just for black photographers in general. Yeah. You know, finally, you know, getting those platforms and being seen, you know, but also just shooting protests. I think a lot of people forget that these are people lost to police brutality, but you're also going into these communities, and it's not even just a color thing or a gender thing or anything. You're just having respect for these communities and understanding that these images are going to outlast you and what you're trying to say. Yeah. You know, but like, let's talk about some of your favorite photographers. You touched on some, you know, a lot of the OGs, but let's talk about, like, are you watching any young photographers, you know, this new generation that's coming up? You know, I still consider myself a new generation because I haven't been in the game that long. But like, who, you know, photographers that's shooting now, that's just roaming, that's out now. Like, who are some of your favorites?
I touched on some of them. You absolutely, and that's not just, and you've known that like way before we met.
Appreciate it.
I really love, like I said before, Ravi. Her name is Raven, but her Instagram is Ravi B. Yeah. I think she's incredible. Like, her eye, and I guess to be there during her process of, she has a job and she's doing very, like, okay, you got to film Jay-Z and Beyonce, right? And you get to organize them and arrange them. And I'm always this little thing in the back of her ear, like, yo, don't forget the art. What's your framing looking like? What's you got to put the darks on light backgrounds, put the lights on dark. You know, not in a negative way, but just, I'm always trying to remind her to, like, throw this art into it. Like, I would hit her to try to reinforce things where she took an incredible photo of Jay when he had grills on.
Yeah, I saw that on your page today. Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, this is my favorite photo that you've ever done of him. Why? Because I can't see his whole face. And it really captures his personality, and it shows your skill without relying on who the subject matter was. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. So the younger generation, I just love them, man. There's so many that I see online. I'm trying to think off the top of just who my favorite. It's hard. I would have to go through my feed because I just follow so many that are incredible. I really love what's going on in Japan right now. I think they are just killing street right now. Japan is just like on fire with I don't know, just the way that they're interpreting street is just incredible. When I say they, because multiple photographers that I'm like in love with right now that are in Japan. Some really dope stuff going on in Germany too. I've been following some really dope guys in Germany, but you know, in the US, I don't know. I seem to follow the same people, and just like those people lead me to other people, and I watch my friends a lot. Like, I don't know if Van's still considered young, but like I follow him to death. Like, you know, like just his bravado of having an understanding of social media, then coming from a directorial world of porn, then moving into filming skateboarders early, then going to the point where he's now putting up photos. I think what blew him up on Instagram was like, oh, I'm going to take these interesting shots of women that would have been in these movies, but all with clothes on. So he's photographing Asa Akira, but in this really tasteful way, you know, like, and that is what, and his thing of natural light, of using natural light and learning from that, really yeah. of how to frame things, how to make people comfortable. But then I'm saying that as a journey, because then he switches and it's just like, hey, I don't want to be known just for that. So then it'll be like, oh, okay, I'm just getting images of shapes and whatever it is. I want to change my name. My name is not Van Styles. My name is Steven. And we had a long conversation about like going down in history as someone who's going to go down in history as their nickname. Like, what does that mean? And what, you know, do you want your real name or your Instagram name, or what do you like? That's more valuable for me because I get to see these processes and I get to see someone who does actually live and work in this field and like what decisions are made, because sometimes I have the ability to make decisions that have nothing to do with business, I guess is the best way to say it. So I learned from a lot of them. And then just Evidence his heart. He's the, like, if you ever met him, if you ever chilled with him, if you ever know, he's the like, if you have a problem with him, it's your fault. Like, he's one of those people, right? He's just the nicest guy in the world. And the way he shoots from the heart, like, is everything with him is about the feeling of the shot, you know, and that's, I think that's where I learn and follow. And then sometimes I try not to, how am I supposed to say? I try not to look at some of their stuff just for the simple fact that I don't want to copy it. So there'll be some things that come up and I'm like, nah, that's too much like what I do. And if I look at it, I'm gonna keep copying. So I don't know, it's weird for me. Sometimes I'm really into it and sometimes I just put the gram away and try to focus on real life or challenge myself. 2020, I was like, we can't really go out. Nobody's outside like that. So what am I filming if no one's walking the streets or if nothing's happening or you can't be around people or like, or is this the opportunity to film the street without people in it? Like New York City don't normally look like this without a whole bunch of people. You know, like you never get to get this. So maybe that's the challenge. I don't know. So those are the things that I follow. But there's just so much talent out there and so many perspectives. And again, I want to know what it's like to be 18, 20 years old shooting in 2021. I want to know that perspective, not, you know, what my perspective is. I already know my perspective. I want to see what younger people's perspective is on life and being very open to that.
Yeah, definitely. You know, like I always tell people, I got mentors that's younger than me and older than me. So I surround myself in both spaces. You know, we run out of time before we leave. You know, like what you got going on? You got any exhibitions, anything musically we should be looking out for? Like, what's next?
I have right now, I mean, musically, I've been working on this movie that we're putting out. Jay has a film company now. When I say film, I mean a movie company, that another good friend of mine, James Samuel, who happens to be the younger brother of Seal. And Seal, as we all know, is an avid Leica shooter. So James Samuel created this movie. It's starring Idris Elba, Regina King, a lot of the biggest people in London right now. It's a Western. So it's been fun, like working on that thing musically. That's coming out on Netflix very soon. And then again, I have Jamila, which is my record company with Ninth Wonder. We put out Rhapsody. We're putting out another young guy named Ruben Vincent, who's just incredible 20-year-old MC. And as soon as we get all the paperwork right, we'll be putting him out. But that's pretty much what I've been working on. I'm working on an album with Smoke Dizzle right now. It's going to be incredible. What else have I been doing? I mean, one of the tracks that I did with my production partner just made it to another Netflix special that Will Smith is hosting. So just, you know, those sort of things, dibbling, dabbling. But photography-wise, you know, I've been working in my virtual space. I started a company called Collimation, which does a combination of things. We do AR, we do VR, we do events. So we're working on a virtual sort of platform so that we can have our own curated museums. You know, you put on the Oculus glasses, and you're literally in the museum and all of your work is hanging up, but in a futuristic way to where if someone's in the gallery, they're not only just in there looking at your work, they can actually click on it and purchase it, right? In crypto as an NFT, or just flat out purchase a print, like have all of those options available. So I think mixing sort of where we are in the world, what the technology can provide, and giving more spaces for younger people to get their work out there. If you build a gallery that sort of gets famous, and then I can start putting other artists inside of the gallery and say, hey, Thursday we're showcasing so-and-so, and come in and buy this person's work, or at least view it or be aware of it. Or though that's what I'm working on right now, because this VR and AR space is going to be huge. And also I'm doing it from the standpoint that you don't absolutely need the Oculus glasses, right? You can jump on your laptop and be in a 2D version or be in the 3D version, but it's about creating a marketplace for art.
Yep. Yeah, man, I can't thank you enough. Everybody, I want to say thanks to Young Guru, Leica, Photoville for amazing talk. Thank you for all the gems. I hope everybody left with something. Until next time, everybody, I'm inspired. I'm taking my M10 out today. I'm going to shoot with the 35, and I'm going to shoot with the 21mm because I'm working on a landscape project.
Okay.
So get out there, shoot, have fun. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank y'all.